Hello, and welcome to our continuing conference, the wonderful STOP conference, Stop Corruption, Calamities and Wars. I'm Richard Lloyd Jones. I am from Canada, and we have a very special guest today. But before I introduce him, I want to talk about who's with me here in the room today, because we're being joined through Skype today. Our conference, as you know, is a continuation of the incredible work that the Stop the Destruction of the World Association has been doing for the last 30 years. And actually, the founder of Stop, who is with me today, Dr. Cláudia Bernhardt Pacheco, has been working for much longer than that on the themes that we're talking about in our conference, specifically conscientizing the human being, the world, the society, about the psychosociopathology that is the cause of all the calamities and wars and destruction that we have. So it's very valuable work linked, of course, to Dr. Norberto Keppe. You've been hearing a lot about him in the conference. So Cláudia Pacheco is with me today. Cláudia is the founder of STOP and the founder and director of our Trilogical colleges. So nice to have you here as always,
Thank you, Richard.
Percy Brzezinski will be joining us in a minute. Oh, there he is. Okay, yeah.
Hello.
Percy is a kind of an international liaison for STOP. He does a lot of work in our legal department and work with international people around the world. I think Rodrigo Pacheco, who is the president of our Center for Juridical Studies, will be joining us as well. So we have a very full day. But I want to introduce, I think I should spend a little bit of time to introduce our very esteemed guest. We're very, very pleased to have Professor Dr. Ghougassian. Put all the titles in the right order. And this is an honorable guest with us, Joseph Ghougassian, former U.S. ambassador to the state of Qatar. He did fantastic work there, in fact. Received his BA and MA in philosophy from the Gregorian University in Rome, his PhD in philosophy from the University of Louvain in Belgium. In 1994, while on sabbatical leave, but he continued working, Ghougassian completed postgraduate studies in family, marriage, sex counseling. Upon completing his doctoral courses, Ghougassian began his teaching career at the age of 22. A lot of things he crammed into that short period of time already as a faculty member of the University of San Diego, where he taught until 1986. While teaching full-time, he earned a new MA in International Relations from the University of San Diego and his JD from its law school. Dr. Ghougassian has authored books on personality psychology, contemporary Arabic philosophy, Greco-Roman philosophy, and women's studies, and written professional articles on a wide range of subjects, from international trade to psychotherapy, philosophy, politics, diplomacy, law, foreign affairs. A very esteemed and accomplished individual. Dr. Ghougassian began his government services in 1981 as a member of President of the White House staff of President Reagan. He was director of the Peace Corps in Yemen and the first ever naturalized U.S. ambassador from the Middle East. From May 1st, 2003 to August 31st, 2004, he was a high-ranking official in the Coalition Provisional Authority in Iraq, was knighted by Pope John Paul II for having succeeded to influence the government of Qatar, listen to this, to lift a 14th century ban on the practice of Christianity in that country and other non-Muslim religions in the state of Qatar.
And his accomplishment is a subject of his book, The Knight and the Falcon, The Coming of Christianity in Qatar, 2008.
And on top of all that, he speaks French, Italian, Arabic, Armenian, English, and even some Spanish. So
and
I'll work just in English.
Portuguese.
Yeah. I'll work just in Portuguese, Dr. Ghougassian, if that's okay with you.
So that's fine.
And Dr. Ghougassian and Cláudia Pacheco go back a long way, and Dr. Norberto Keppe, back to the 1980s, where Dr. Ghougassian was founding and chairing a conference on logotherapy. Dr. Viktor Frankl's work that Dr. Keppe and Dr. Pacheco were speaking at, and so they've had a connection for a long, long time. And do you want to say anything about that?
Well, I met him in San Diego. He was the president of this World Conference.
Yeah.
And he was a very remarkable figure as a professor and a diplomatic figure always. He's always bringing people together and being an incredible host.
Yes, he's building bridges, I think, is a real...
He is a build...
Yeah. So I want to show some pictures of you, Dr. Ghougassian, before we see you live. So I have here, there's your curriculum vitae.
Remember that, Professor?
Yes.
1980.
Yes. I still have it.
You in the middle.
Yes.
Keppe on the right, and I am on the left.
There's Dr. Keppe and Dr. Ghougassian and Dr. Pacheco, three of them together, 1980. San Diego. Yeah, great shot.
And then we invited him to come to Brazil, and he came in 1981. And this is when he was invited to speak in our TV program, Integral Psychoanalysis.
Have you been doing your program since 1981, really?
Yes. Yes. We used to have interviews before, but our own program since 81.
Yeah. Our World Conference on Analytical Trilogy, which a number of us were present at in California, San Diego, 2008. Dr. Ghougassian opening the event there. There's a group of us being spoken to. I see Dr. Giraldo there and a number of our Trilogical people who you'll be hearing in our further in our conference. Dr. Ghougassian again, all rapt attention. There's Rodrigo and Dr. Ghougassian.
Go back to Zena picture.
Go back to?
Zena. She is his wife.
Yes,
Zena,
right.
Beautiful lady,
she's
elegant.
Very beautiful. She looks like a diplomat too, doesn't she?
Yes, she is.
She is Lady Zena. She
Zena.
got the title of lady by the Vatican at the time.
Dr. Keppe's daughter, Sandra, talking to Dr. Ghougassian.
Yes.
And there's Andre Keppe and
Rodrigo on the right.
Yeah, I recognize him now. Looks a little bit younger there, but same guy. There they are giving the presentation on Dr. Keppe's work. Great picture of Dr. Keppe and Dr. Pacheco in the background there. And Nancy, our friend Nancy, and Maria, Fabrizio.
Monica, your wife, by the way.
Monica's there, yes. Yeah. And Dr. Ghougassian, of course, holding everyone in rapt attention. So, without any further ado, I'd like to begin with a question for you, Dr. Ghougassian.
All right.
If I could, it's a question related to your connection with Dr. Keppe's work for many years. Back in the 1980s, you wrote the preface to Dr. Keppe's work, incredible book, Glorification. And in that, you wrote about his science of analytical trilogy. You said that it was a very valuable contribution to the intellectual treasury of civilization. That's something I use in my classes a lot. I think that's really significant.
We need to tell Professor Ghougassian that since then, we can see thousands of students in our institute and in our college have studied in your text, Professor.
Yes, very much. It's a very illustrative text, I think, about Dr. Keppe's work. And you said here, you talked about Dr. Keppe's refreshing views of man, reality, and mental health were welcome in dealing with the mental and emotional problems which plague modern man. So I want to ask you how you see analytical trilogy's relevance and necessity in today's even more inverted and distorted world. How do you see that today, Dr. Ghougassian?
Well, thank you for the question, Richard. And thank you very much for this introduction. I'm very humbled and touched also. And truly, Dr. Cláudia Pacheco, our relationship goes way, way, way back to the last century.
Yes.
Didn't need to put it that way, but okay.
But you remain always young and vivacious and very active intellectually and in other ways. But back to your question, Richard, it's that what impressed me at the time about Dr. Keppe's writings, philosophy, was his ability to synthesize what otherwise is a complex environment, complex world, where individuals have to live, have to behave, and adapt. His synthesis is where he brought then philosophy, going back to Aristotle, which is the pursuit of wisdom, sciences, which are after the facts, the evidence, and then theology, which is the basis of our faith. Because in Keppe's view, there are questions, there are problems in human life, but we cannot find any rational explanation or even scientific, at times, explanations for. And the individual, therefore, is called upon to practice what Soren Kierkegaard spoke of, a leap of faith, to accept the inevitable, to accept the incomprehensible, but with a conviction and a commitment that God has his own reasons that our limited reason cannot comprehend or even explain. I'm reminded of St. Augustine when, while he was in Carthage, that's where he was born, northern Africa, which is modern-day Libya, he was pacing up and down the beach, trying to understand the mystery of the Trinity, God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, all in one. And there was a little boy that Augustine saw that kept on going into the Mediterranean Sea with a small bucket. He kept on filling that bucket with water and come back to the beach and pour that bucket of water in a small hole that he had dug, back and forth, back and forth. St. Augustine stopped and asked him, "Well, what are you doing?" Do you know the story?
No, I'm enjoying the story.
The little boy answered, "I am trying to transfer the Mediterranean Sea into that little hole that I dug." And Augustine said, "It's impossible. It will never happen." Then the little boy told him, "It is much easier for me to do so than for your little brain, mind, to comprehend the mystery of the Trinity." And that's what a moment ago I was simply saying, that God has his ways to make things happen that we will never be able to comprehend logically, rationally, or even scientifically. And therefore, it is where theology comes in. And it is an act of faith. I don't understand, but I accept. Kierkegaard called it a leap of faith. And this is what I like about Dr. Keppe. He tries to make us aware and enlighten us that the mind has philosophy as a tool, has the sciences as a tool, and then also theology, which is all about the study of God. But the study of God is a study of mysteries, incomprehensible, and not to be deciphered, and will never be put on a carbon paper and explained black and white. And I believe that your college, Dr. Cláudia, is after this.
Is that?
Because when you...
Yes.
What did he say? I couldn't hear.
We didn't.
Your college,
college,
Our
yes, yes.
college. Our
Established.
college, yes.
which you have wanted to do and to make it happen from my days when I was in Iraq in the early 2000.
Yeah.
And you were asking me, how do we go about, how do we establish, and so forth. And we corresponded. And I knew at the time that you were going to make it happen.
Yes.
You made it happen. Bravo. Bravissima.
Not only this, Professor, but the last time you came to Brazil, I was a little bit, not a little bit, but quite afraid to
take on this huge.
envisager cette.
Take
I
on.
could speak it. I envisage. It's like in French, okay? Yeah. I was in Cambuquira talking to you. You were riding with us and Keppe around to know the surroundings of Cambuquira, and I was telling you the difficulties to have a college, and I was very much afraid to start this project, a huge project.
It is.
And then every time I tell people, how did I start this at my age? Yeah, with no experience. How did I start it? And I tell the story. I was talking to Professor Ghougassian in the surroundings of Cambuquira, and he told me, why, Cláudia? Why are you afraid?
Why not?
Why not? And I said, oh, because of all the difficulties we had with, well, some happenings in the past. We have some difficulties to put this work ahead. And he said, chin up, Cláudia. Chin up, Cláudia.
Chin up.
And I asked him, do you think I can make it? And he said, why not? Chin up, Cláudia. And this was the start, Professor.
Yeah.
Really. Really, I thank you for that.
Oh.
Today we have thousands of students.
Yes.
They are benefiting a lot of these studies they are doing here in this college. We have so many people, like testimonies and declarations.
Every day.
Dozens of statements, how they thank us to have the opportunity to study a trilogical science. As you said, that brings together God to science.
Yeah.
We live in a very Christian country, you know, so they are more than pleased to have a college where the word God can be spoken without any restriction.
It's kind of a relief, isn't it? It's like a relief.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, so
Well, I congratulate you. I commend you. What you had as a thought today, it is a reality. It's a fact. Nobody can take it away from you.
Yes, that's right.
That's very true.
And I have her behind me.
Oh, yes.
And in front of me. And I have her protection. So really.
You're well looked after.
Yes.
Could we ask you another question, Dr. Ghougassian?
Absolutely. I am here
Okay.
for you.
So my friend, here we go.
So, hello again, Professor Ghougassian.
Hello, Percio.
So my question is, it's about the glorification preface that you wrote a long time ago, but you said, it is a disfavor to the patient to deny him the right of bringing his religious experiences into the office of the psychotherapist. Freud lacked sensitivity when he ridiculed religion, calling it a source of neurosis. So much to the contrary, Keppe brought spirituality back to the patient's life and gave it the importance that the other psychoanalysis had not. So how do you see the sciences of psyche in modern society?
Well, I must say that this was another aspect of Dr. Keppe that attracted me to his way of thinking and view of the world, the Weltanschauung in German, which means it's a worldview. And that worldview is very similar to that of Dr. Viktor Emil Frankl. Frankl, who was a student of Freud at the time, and Freud, who had called religion, which later on has been referred to as the opium of the people. But Frankl's faith, and he was a Jew, I pursue, like you. And he went to the concentration camp, and he lost his wife, family, kids, but survived because he had that strong belief, religious belief, not any kind of belief, that there is a God that will take care of him. He survived. He came out of this concentration camp and then wrote his famous, very small little book. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. I have learned from Dr. Frankl not to write very big books, always small books. The wisdom is not in verbiage, endless words. Like people like to count how many pages they have. But it's rather to the point and to the mind and to the heart of the reader. My book, The Knight and the Falcon, I have been told it's very small, very minuscule. I said, but that's the essence. I'm not going to add more than, as long as you get the message that that's the most important thing. So that was the aspect that Dr. Keppe had, which attracted me to him, bringing religion, the belief of the patient in God, in the inner sanctum of the office, the therapies, and because after all, religion, and that I found in Dr. Keppe as well as in Dr. Frankl, is a source of mental health. Yes. People who suffer mentally or emotionally and physically, they can still find salvation, relief, happiness, satisfaction in believing in God. So this is where religion is not a tool, but actually it is a vessel of cure. And that's what I meant when I wrote that statement that you read, Percio.
Professor, I would like to take the advantage of this subject. And from what I read in your article that was just published in Christian Post, you brought a very enlightened idea, which is that if there were a group of leaders, religious leaders, in a World Congress, they might bring about peace into Europe, Russia, Ukraine, Eastern Europe,
Middle East,
if there was an organism like UN, like NATO, European Union, as a synod.
Synod, yes.
Synod. that could be held in Istanbul or Jerusalem. And you say you are advocating a World Congress of Religious Heads to supplement NATO. And this could stop the war, the carnage, and the genocide of Ukrainians. Well, you understand a lot about genocides, isn't it?
Yes, well.
Yes. So you
as
are...
an Armenian,
Yeah.
As an Armenian,
Yeah.
my father survived the Armenian genocide in the hands of the Ottoman rulers and authorities. He fled from Constantinople, the old city. It was called Constantinople. Today it is called Istanbul. And took refuge. He was a refugee in Egypt.
So this synod
Well,
that you want to
I find very beautiful when Ghougassian speaks about the sensitive areas of human soul. Yeah. So we feel very comfortable, Joe, with all these inner feelings and emotional expressions, because they are very sentimental and they are real. So this is what connects people, bring them together. And I see that you wrote here, religion is in the DNA of people. Yeah. It cannot be denied or stifled. This is why international law protects, or should always protect, the precept of religious freedom. Yeah. I understand sometimes, I think that what brought us together, Joe, was more this resonance in the level of spirituality and ideals, and mostly spiritual ideals. This was really brought us together.
More than intellectual.
Much more than academic, intellectual, or whatever ties we might have. Yeah. This is a real resonance, energetic resonance that happens when people think and feel and practice similar religious beliefs.
Correct.
I remember you saying, Dr. Ghougassian, that liturgical ceremony is only possible because we have this innate desire for connection with God, right?
Correct.
So to speak a little bit more about how you see that.
Well, there is a Latin phrase that says, homo est anima religiosum. Man is a religious animal or human being, yes. A being, an essence, existence. And that's what I meant by the DNA. It is, it has always been, long before Jesus Christ came on earth and showed us the way and brought Christianity. There has always been that need. It's an inner need, a physical need for the individual to believe in a super being who oversees, takes care of us, provides us. He's a providence. It has had many forms, from paganism, worshipping of animals, worshipping of fire, to that until Jesus Christ, when he came and showed us the way of the one God. So China today, they try to stifle the Muslims in their own country, but it will never succeed. Communism during the Soviet Union also adopted Karl Marx's view that religion was, and it was Marx who used the word opium. It's an opium of people. which Sigmund Freud also before him, or at the same time contemporarily, because they were living at the same time but in different places, viewed then religion as an escape from reality. It's not an escape. It is very much into reality. It is a reality. And trying to deny this to the patient is a disfavor. The patient will not cure, because most of the time, many of his or her troubles may very well have religious roots, causes. So the therapist, if he's not very well versed, very well educated about religion, should not try to deny it, but rather listen, accept it, and work with the patient, religious feelings, to help the patient use those religious feelings to overcome his neurosis, psychosis, whatever it is that is being labeled or she's being labeled.
And you have this intuition, Professor, that if there would be a dialogue, and shall be a dialogue, an interreligious dialogue, this can bring really a real stable peace in the planet. I think
Yes.
this is the ultimate form of dialogue among human beings.
Yes.
And we have a discipline in our college, and one of the main reasons we found this theology course is to open up an interreligious dialogue and between many forms of faiths, so people can live under just one God, all children of God, independently from their origin in church, which church they belong to, but seeing human beings all as children of God and friends of God. And this discipline has the name of Theologians Without Frontier.
Nice. Very nice.
So
Very
we are
nice.
trying to form scientists of the soul in this theological course, scientists of the soul who could help this dialogue to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I
I commend you for that, Dr. Cláudia.
Okay, I'll do
I
that.
commend you for that.
I accept.
For trying
Accept.
to make it academically
Yeah. Yes.
and seriously
Yes.
and honestly an aspect of intellectual pursuit, so that the person who
Yes.
studies and also grows with it.
Yes.
Look, there is an adage, a saying, God is one, but he has many names. The Hindus call him one, the Muslim call him Allah, the Hebrew call him Yahweh, the Christian call him God. Many, many, many names, but he's only one.
Exactly.
He's remained the creator of the entire universe.
Exactly.
Regardless of all these politicians and wars and so on, they're not going to
Yes.
wipe it out.
Yes. So it seems that we are getting closer and closer to this time, Professor.
Yes.
Humanity is it's more mature in terms of perceiving the need for that. Otherwise.
Now, in my article in the Christian Post, go to christianpost.com. You can pull it out.
Okay.
And you will see the comments, by the way. It appeared 3 days ago or 2 days ago, and already it's being commented on.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
My critique, it is an article of criticizing the Eastern Orthodox churches, because Ukraine belongs to the Eastern Orthodox faith. Russia also. And there are 9, and at the head of each one of these Eastern, there is a patriarch. 9 of them. And the reason I mentioned Jerusalem or Istanbul, Constantinople, because the very first patriarchate of Eastern religion was in Constantinople or modern-day Istanbul.
Yes.
And that's why till today, the Turkish government respect the seat of the Eastern Patriarchate in Istanbul, and they don't try to molest them, but of course they don't also listen much to them. So, and that's why the Eastern Patriarchate from Constantinople is the very first patriarchate in the Eastern Church, Orthodox Church. And he is the equal among all the other 8 ones.
There are 9.
They need to get together.
Yes, they need to get together.
They need to get together and pass judgment without fear. Putin is a one person. Can you imagine? Only one man, one human being with one heart. And yet he's commanding legions of people armed with very destructive tools against other innocent people, babies, pregnant women, old men, children. Come on, that's not war. That's that is what brought me then to apply myself and to write this article. Mm-hmm. The Christian Post have been after me for quite some time to send them op-eds. Op-ed is opinion editor. So they have in the past, on account of my book regarding Christianity in Qatar. So I decided, fine, this is something that I need to put my finger on, my thoughts, and send it out. Will it happen? I don't think so. Why? Because the power of the politicians, like the power of communism and so forth, is to stifle the freedom of religion, the freedom of religious thought, and for people to come out and to say, look, we're all one. Yeah. And that's why I was asking, where is this Russian Patriarch of Moscow? He's one patriarch, and his title is Patriarch Eastern Church in Moscow. That's why. Where is he? He's silent. Totally silent.
Yeah.
So somehow, your scholars should speak about it.
We are speaking about it.
To encourage politicians to show their true faith and their true faith. And anyhow.
Joe, sorry to say this, to call you by this friendly...
Of course,
I'm used to call you Joe, so Professor Ghougassian.
Cláudia.
Professor Ghougassian. Have you heard about some prophecies or messages given by the Holy Mother that this period of peace that we will live here, live
through, right?
in the planet before the total end of the planet, this period of time of peace, which some people call Perusian times, some people call Millennium times. But the Holy Mother spoke that peace would come from Ukraine and Russia. When Ukraine and Russia would have a conflict, something would happen because of this situation that will lead to this time of peace, this period of peace in humanity. She said that to some seers.
Is that the Fatima?
Well,
talking about,
in Fatima, she spoke about the errors that Russia would spread in the world. But she said that in one of the secrets to Sister Lucia, and also to Garabandal, messages in Spain, and a few other situations where she would mention, pay attention when Russia and Ukraine have happening there, that peace would and will come from them somehow. And it's and ironically, the seer said, ironically, would come from this situation. And this was said a long time ago. So maybe this is the time where consciousness will grow so much of this carnage, or this stupidity, that after this huge conflict of ethics and religion and all this confusion and politics and power and greed, that humanity will see something that will make, this will create a ground for people to say, hey, let's stop the war.
I hope so.
In Amsterdam, the Holy Mother said some messages also about Ukraine and Russia, that a conflict there would be a turning point. This was in the 50s in Amsterdam. And her name there, she presented herself as the mother of all nations or all peoples. And that's what we took for our college. So she was saying that the time for the Holy Spirit to govern the planet was very close.
May God hear your words and make them happen.
You know something? When people tell me, may God hear you, I say, maybe I'm hearing him. Maybe I'm listening to him.
Yeah, that's
right?
the first step. Yeah.
Now, there is a man here in the room. He's very fond of you. He sees himself as your pupil. And he's starting a project on law and all this justice thing and the divine law. So it's a beautiful research him and his group are accomplishing.
Hello, Rodrigo.
Hello, Professor. How are you?
Habibi.
It's so nice to be and to
talk. It's always good to see you too.
Yes. We have a lot of things that are being done here in Brazil in relation to this new mission and goal to do in our college a law degree, a law course that has this intention to unite the fields of knowledge. So this is taking this opportunity, I have written a question. And I'm going to read it. I have on my phone. That translates the purpose of our college and the law course. And I would be very thankful to hear your wise words on this matter. So my question to you is as follows. The concept of justice is ancient Greece sought a union among three generating pillars of the sources of knowledge: theology, science, and philosophy. Aristotle thought that this union of the science was necessary. We have seen that humanity, mainly influenced by positivism, has neglected this universal vision and has isolated itself in a rationalist, dogmatic, following the ideas of Auguste Comte.
Yes.
Justice can only fulfill its restorative function when it is possible to reestablish this unification. Therefore, how do you understand that the work of Analytical Trilogy can rescue this integral vision of justice?
Excellent question, Rodrigo. As usual, you are very profound, very incisive, and I'll do my very best. Okay, you know, I'm a lawyer too. So, and justice is indeed the very essence, supposed to be, of the study of law. That is, in fact, the strength of Dr. Keppe's Trilogy, along with Dr. Cláudia, who started as an intern, as an assistant, and then graduated to become the glue of Dr. Keppe's and his work. Philosophy, science, and theology. And then we have Auguste Comte, who comes in the 17th century, proposes positivism. He reminds me a bit of St. Thomas, the evangelist, the pupil of Jesus, Thomas. And he was definitely the very first one to say, if I don't put my finger into the holes that Jesus has in his hands, and I don't put my finger also in his side where he was pierced, then I would not believe that he has resurrected. And Jesus complied. He showed up and told him, come on, Thomas, put your fingers in my hands and also in my side. Unfortunately, Auguste Comte is the father of modern day philosophy of science. Evidence must be proven factually. The facts have to be studied. And if you cannot explain scientifically that things don't exist, and that's the weakness of science. For those who go for this kind of philosophy, whereby they subject themselves to being a slave to scientific research that has to prove everything to be believed on, well, they will never succeed and be happy in life. They will never. Because, as I earlier stated, there are things, problem, issues in human existence that cannot be explained rationally or scientifically. Rational will be philosophically, yes, or scientifically. How do you prove the very existence of God philosophically, rationally? You can't. Thomas Aquinas tried by using some argument that Aristotle had developed, metaphysical arguments, but believe me, it does not hold water. So that is the very reason why, and I believe that your school is advancing this kind of thinking. religion comes to complement and to enlighten the mind where science cannot succeed, by bringing a union between the individual and the love of God. It's all in love. Love is faith, faith and love. So, and justice is, in the law, the basis that you find in Jesus' famous teaching of love. Do unto others what you want them to do unto you. This is based on justice. This is the concept of justice in the New Testament that Jesus was advancing. Be good to your neighbors, love your neighbors, and if he slaps you on one cheek, turn your other cheek. Justice. And so justice is also give to Caesar what belongs to him, and to God what belongs to God. This is again in the New Testament. That's what Jesus taught us. And it is based on the whole concept of justice. Justice means fairness. Justice means, in the law, commonality, order, but with a heart. With a heart. Because we should not forget the French philosopher, who was, by the way, a great scientist also, Blaise Pascal. You remember what Blaise Pascal stated? The heart has its reason that reason does not know and will never understand.
So in this sense, we haven't had justice on the planet yet, have we?
No,
Haven't had true justice at all.
because justice implies grace,
Yeah.
restoration, and not compensation. Implies to restore, to be the grace. It's like a sacrament. The divine justice should be, the human justice should be similar to the divine justice.
reflective of
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were just mentioning that the human laws should follow, be similar as much as we can to the divine laws. Try to put our existence as close as possible to the essence, the ideal to what is real. And that, let's say, this conflict between the ideal world and the real world, the world we live in, should apply justice to comfort as a way to restore and to apply grace like a sacrament. So you need these three things: theology, philosophy, and science. So that becomes possible. Otherwise, it would be just vengeance. An eye for an eye.
That's correct. That is called the synthesis that you find in Dr. Keppe.
Yes. Thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. I am humbled. I am privileged that you have included me. And I thank you immensely for your trust.
Professor Ghougassian and my dear friend. And I hope, who knows, we can still get together to pursue this ideal of this spiritual dialogue in the world, and to bring all this interreligious dialogue and peace.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have common ideals, I see, always. And we are not dead. Here we are. As you said, we are active. You are very active. You have a very always lucid and brilliant activity. And I send my best regards to Zena, to the lady
Thank you.
Zena, and to your family.
And from my aunt, our aunt, to Dr. Keppe.
And he also sent you his best feelings and friendship. Okay?
Appreciate very much.
I hope we
Thank you.
can get together soon to some classes.
Yeah,
Maybe
let's
invite
do
you to be our
Professor
guest
Emeritus.
professor, guest professor to our students. Who knows?
Thank you.
Bye
I
bye,
am
Joe.
here.
Bye-bye, Dr.
Bye-bye.
Ghougassian.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Arrivederci.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.